Kachina, welcome to the Thinker Growth Community weekly
I'm
call.
excited to be here this morning. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, certainly love to have your voice and experience and input on these topics. Today, for the Tuesday workshop, we're going to be discussing finding your voice, personality, getting yourself out there. Uh, the thought comes to my mind, this idea of becoming your future self, the self that can support the business that you're looking to support or the product, service, or message. And this comes from a handful of discussions that we've circled around the community this past week, including a discussion I had with Paul yesterday. We were reading a biography, I think, on Barack Obama and how he at one point in time had to shift and create a fictional version that would be, what he wanted to put out in the public. And also a coaching call, a sprint call today with Ryan. He's launching a skincare product, and we've talked extensively about getting out of his own head, being able to project a persona that he's a little bit uncomfortable with, but what social media needs, because he's a bit reserved and has some self-defeating thoughts. So if he learns to act a little bit out there, get himself out there, then he can get his message across. And then also, Paul, you and I have been walking through some speeches and digging deep, getting accessing and using your emotions to communicate and connect probably more effectively. So that's the topic loosely, and then we'll see where that goes. So
My not readily apparent emotions. The interesting thing that I've discovered as we've begun to unpack this is that all throughout the journey of not just a business but in life, you have to evaluate things where at one point you've made a judgment and perhaps some internal regulations, and some regulations, right, need to be repealed. And in my case, right, I think probably the one that we were talking about was the fact that I can come across as kind of stoic, and in fact, I once had a friend nickname me Spock because I could just be so even keel, logical all the time, and rarely perturbed by anything, or seeming that way, when in fact I'm actually radioactive on the inside. But I view it as such a liability. It's gotten me in trouble so many times that I'm like, I just need to keep that on a leash. And so anyway, I don't want to go too much into that just right at the start here, but just just suffice it to say that the journey has been very interesting, learning to let a little bit off that leash and allow that side of me to express itself. In some cases, regardless of what the consequences might be. But I don't do it, you don't want to do it with recklessness and abandon. You want to do it. It's a judgment call. It requires maturity, and it requires continuous self-evaluation. But at the end of the day, if you don't let that part of yourself out of the bag from time to time, as you pointed out, Jason, you also you restrict yourself on the polar opposite of that, which is transcendent joy and overwhelming and overflowing happiness. That also becomes off limits to you as a person, sort of like a default side effect of reining in certain parts of your being. So anyway, you can start throwing this around. And Naomi, welcome. Good to see you again. And Kachina, we'll be looking forward to hearing your input on that. By the way, Naomi, meet Kachina. Kachina, meet Naomi. I don't know if you two have met before.
No, you're better.
So Naomi, you saw, I think perhaps in the Slack channel, the discussion for today is essentially becoming the self, becoming the person that you need to be, or that your company, your business, your family, your message needs. Because if you want to, like we talked about before, if you want to impact the world and you think you have a product, service, or message that's going to change the world, you got to be great at communicating it.
Mhm.
And that typically, in my experience, requires a person we not yet are. And that's fine. And like Paul, he talks about some rules or regulations that need to be repealed that he had put in place years ago that don't serve the product, service, and message today, which is fine. And then sometimes we need to develop some tactics or feelings or ways of being that can serve our product, service, or message better. So, anyhow, you're up to speed.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah, I have it pulled up right now.
Thoughts on that topic and how it impacts entrepreneurs or how it's impacted you?
Don't be
I'll
shy.
Anybody?
I mean, I guess I'll start. I've been reading. So last week I was reading The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and today I started a new book. Oh my gosh, I think it's The Habit of Coaching. Um, and I've recently started streaming video games. I love video games. That's an outlet for me, and I've started streaming my gameplay. And as I went back and watched, I noticed that I talk a lot. I mean, I know you're supposed to talk to entertain your audience, but I talk a lot. And I've noticed that as I interact with my family members, my husband, my kids, I talk a lot. And in this book, The Habit of Coaching, it talks about how you ask one question at a time and let them answer and dig a little deeper and how to dig a little deeper. And I had recently gone through something really difficult and I'm trying to like find myself again, if that makes sense, and trying to progress again and kind of be that person for me, to show up for me, to show up for the people around me. And I've loved as I've been reading different books that have been suggested to me that how my mindset has changed, how my approach has changed. I really loved something that they said today. Um, and this, like, they're life altering things, right? There's like different things that'll help you become who you need to be. For instance, when you're frustrated with your kids, imagine yourself at 80 years old and you can only go back to one moment. And this is that moment right here in this frustration. What would that moment look like? How would that look different if this was the one moment you could go back in time and have this one more moment when they were little? That's helped me. That's been framing me. And that's helped me be a more patient mom for my family. That's helped change me into who I need to be for my family. And something that I listened to today, I really, really loved this, how they did a study of people were given questions of true or false. And people who, so they, two sides, right? Both sides were able to do it again. One side, they didn't write down their answers, and the other side did write down their answers. And they were able to go back and do it again. And the people who did it a second time, they did significantly better. So well, I guess there were three groups because one didn't do it again and they didn't do very well. But the people who, no, sorry, I'm like trying to remember as I'm talking about it. I think it was two groups. One didn't write down the answers, and the second one, they did write down their answers. And then when they went back, they did significantly better the second time. They weren't given the right answers, they just wrote down their answers. And the point was that when we commit to something, we're much more likely to think about it and ruminate on the decision we've made. A lot of times we're afraid of making a decision, afraid of taking the next step because we don't want it to be the wrong decision and we want to think about it first. And sometimes thinking about it, it's almost like when you make a decision, if you can't decide, flip a coin, put one decision on one side, the other decision on the other side, flip the coin. And if it lands and the choice is made for you and you're disappointed, you know you needed to make the other choice. It's kind of like that where you need to make a choice, you need to hone in. And when you're able to go back and ruminate, that's why people who are highly successful, they talk about how many times they failed first and they embrace that because you need to make a decision so you can ruminate on it and decide whether or not it was the correct decision. And so I think that that's helped me in my family life. I feel like that's helping me going forward, like in business, in like my entrepreneurship, like being able to commit to something. And then later on, if it doesn't feel right, I'll be able to see that. But it won't be until after I've made that decision and been able to ruminate on the decision that I've committed to. So I think that that's helping me. And, that's how I've been. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. Kachina, what's connecting for you? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you can pass
Yeah,
it to.
well, I'm new to the group, so I'm just trying to get a feel for it. I think entrepreneurship is almost like the greatest form of personal development. Um, and that's something I've just had in the back of my mind as I like build my business as professional development is personal development and vice versa. So I think it's a really good question. Like, who do I have to become? Um, and very often it's stretching yourself out of your comfort zone. Actually, this was something you brought up all the other day about, I feel like essentially you're talking about this phenomenon of imposter syndrome. Very often entrepreneurs, we struggle with having our confidence because we're constantly, in order to do what we need to do, which is usually not a proven path, we have to go outside of our comfort zone and skills that we don't have. So sometimes I'm humbled because I'm always facing new challenges and I go, I don't know if I can do this. Um, but if you look back like 6 months, I was in such a very different stage in my business. I had very different skill sets, I had very different belief systems. Um, so yeah, it's still humbling because like looking back, it's always generally in a positive direction. Looking forward, I always feel like a little lost.
Yeah, tying those thoughts together, what comes to my mind is this. I like the idea of commitment because entrepreneurship forces a bit of commitment. Ryan and I were talking earlier today. He's got a job that is not satisfying to his soul, but it's a job. And being there, it 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 emphasized for him his need now. Like, I really have to follow through with this. I really got to get this product launched because I have to do my own thing. And being able to see the contrast for him between the I'm working for somebody else's dream versus I'm working for my dream is thrusting him back into with some energy perhaps to build his dream and really commit to it. But like we talk about, when we know we're committed to that, we are presented with challenges, new growth opportunities that our business needs us to resolve. It needs us to change sometimes our mindsets or to develop skills. And it is the commitment that drives us forward because so often I think people are presented with an opportunity for growth and like, man, that's a challenge. I don't want to grow in that area because, like you talked about, Kachina, it requires a courageous introspection, a courageous inventory of what really am I suited for? What skill sets do I need to develop? What things do I need to remove from my life? The example I gave to Ryan earlier today was my normal thinking face is a bit of a Debbie Downer sort of face, to the point where some people are like, "Are you mad? Like, did I do something to you?" It's like, no, no, no. I'm just really engaged in thinking this problem through. And early on in my journey of having people work for me and whatnot, I realized I was doing everybody a disservice, shutting people down inadvertently because I was so amped up and ready to engage. And it was really just the whatever face was painted here that I never gave a thought about prior to the moment when I needed to, when for the sake of the people around me, I needed to just plaster a smile on my face. And it was super awkward. I felt totally out of place. Like, this isn't real. However, to everybody, I needed to present to everybody else in that moment a thing, a different persona in some ways that I had to manufacture it and undo this whatever happens on my face, which I'm unaware of. And so I would stand in front of people and give presentations with other folks and I would put this tiny little smile on my face, which I was like, this looks dumb. I think I look stupid, but everybody else was much more comfortable. And over the years, it's just become a normal thing. And now I give no thought to the tiny little smile that happens on my face. And I find actually that I get along better with folks. And I rarely hear the comment anymore, "Hey, are you mad?" And I can be very engaged in a topic.
I've seen a difference. So you're doing great. Remember the
Aw.
first time we met, we talked and I was like, I wasn't sure if you were judging me, if you were going to be shutting me down. You had this stone look on your face. And I was like, I don't know if everything I'm saying is just like sounds so dumb to this dude. Like, I have no idea. And then I told you, like, wait, really? And I was like, yeah, I was kind of scared of you. Not scared of you per se, but like, yeah. But yeah, you're doing great with the smile. It's like fake it till you make it type of thing.
Absolutely.
Those little things we work on. Like for instance, the second time in a row I've showed up with no foundation because I'm working on being more comfortable without having to look airbrushed.
All right.
So
Like,
little things. You what?
You look fantastic.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I've got a super insecure. I like to think I'm secure, but I'm not.
Mhm.
So I'm fighting it little bit by little bit.
You know what all of this is reminding me of is what I read. So I'm yesterday, Jason and I had a conversation about this book that I'm currently reading, and oh yeah, it's amazing the perspective that 10 years will do for you. And so if I had read this book 10 years ago, as the aspiring polemicist that I was, I would have said, see, I'm right. That's all I would have said reading it. And now I'm reading it with a totally different lens. And so the book is a biography of President Obama. And this is not a book written by a Tucker Carlson or one of these, people on the who are diametrically opposed to him. It's a guy who's, more aligned with him than anything, but a guy who said, I really want to know what's the real version of what happened that led to how this man became who he is. And I said, I'm interested in that too, but not because I, have different political viewpoints than he does. I'm interested because an emissary, there's a lot of overlap there. In fact, we often tell people that the process of becoming a successful author is analogous to becoming a successful national politician. Vis-a-vis one interview after another, one handshakes, kissing babies, smiling for photographs, signing books after another, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint, if you want to make a book successful. And so I said, at this point, and you could probably do this with Donald Trump as well if you want to. You could say, though, what are some of the secrets these candidates who won the White House and their staffers and teams understood about becoming a certain figurehead of a movement that millions of people flock to? Because obviously we're interested in doing that, not fictionalizing it necessarily, but turning it into a story as well as, an account of the facts and the background and all of that. A semi-autobiographical work is usually what's involved with our authors. And so I'm reading this, and one of the first things I found out about Obama was that when he was in his early 20s, he worked, I knew that he worked as a community organizer in the Chicago area. What was fascinating to learn about that process is that right when he first took the job, his first community organizing job in Chicago, the first 3 or 4 months that he was on the job, the only thing he did was go and set up one-on-ones with people in the community who were willing to talk and ask them questions, and that's it. He didn't go out and preach. He didn't go out and organize. He didn't go out and give talks. He didn't organize protests. He didn't bus people over to the Capitol or to businesses and stage picket lines and heckling and all that. He didn't do any of that. All he did was go and talk to the people in the community and listen. And as I thought about that, it reminded me of something that Jason and I have done, and I'm now doing it again as I prepare this talk on being reserved and misunderstood. And as I'm reaching out to people I know, Kachina, you got this message yesterday. This is what I was going to ask you about, is how strongly does that whole concept of having been misunderstood then filter into a place of being reserved, which is what I'm working to overcome. And therefore, right, what do people really need to hear when they hear someone give a talk about this? Because a big part of being an entrepreneur, right, you're trying to get paid for solving a problem in many cases people don't know they have. And human beings solve 0% of the problems they don't think they have, right? So, um, and in that process, if you're self-sabotaging by taking a personality that's this big and shrinking it into one that's this big, you're automatically going to write yourself out of a lot of opportunities that you would otherwise have. So anyway, all of that goes back to this thing. Like, if we're trying to figure out who we need to become, one of the best things I think we can do is begin researching it by talking to people we know and saying, without me becoming fake, what, if I came out and said this, does that ring your bell? 'Cause if it doesn't, I'm not going to talk about it. But if it does, okay, then now I got to find 15 other people who say the same thing, and then I feel like I've got a trend. Anyway, that's what all of this has taken me to, and it's fascinating work. It's some of the best uh, corroboration and confirmation I think you can get early on. And if we did this kind of work ahead of just throwing our solution out there and saying, here's what I do, buy my stuff, who knows how differently things could turn out for us.
It also makes it so when you talk, you're not going out tone deaf. I love that. You you find out what people need to hear. Because yeah, I love what you said about like not becoming fake. Because I think a lot of people do that. They learn what people want to hear and they become fake and just saying what people want to hear. But there's something to be said for educating yourself on the thing is that they strike a chord with people. And so when you're talking to people, it's much more connected. They feel like you see them and they feel like you're aware of what they are wanting other people to be aware of. And then
Hmm.
that way you will also spread awareness. Because if they're telling you what's on their mind, if they're telling you what the thing is that will strike a chord with them, and you're starting to talk about it, they know you're going to be the person who's also going to spread it. And if they're wanting awareness about that, they're going to be rooting for you to spread that, whether in your writing or in your political journey.
Hmm.
I love that.
Yeah, it goes back to that secret of copywriting, right? Get into the conversation the reader's already having in their head.
Mhm.
And in fact, in the text there where I read that in the book about Obama, that's what they told him. They said the reason you're going out and listening is so that the audience hears themselves when you speak, hears their aspirations, hears their dreams, hears their frustrations. All of that show up in your rhetoric. So great point.
Well, this is one of the things I'm thinking about as I grow my business. I'm very um, certain I want to build my business off of relationships and what that means. So one of the things I'm trying to as I'm growing my team is make sure that every conversation is a valuable conversation. If you have a call and you connect in some sort of a business purpose and they don't buy because you're not trying to push them on a sale they're not ready for, or just not the right fit or not the right time. I feel like traditional sales would be like, well, we failed. But if you switch like every conversation is a learning opportunity or opportunity to work together more closely, then you gain it's just like for me, I'm launching my new community. Like every call, every conversation I have about community is part of a learning cycle that helps me understand like what do people actually want to buy? Because one of that feeling misunderstood is when we have an idea and we share it with the world, it gets rejected. There's only so many times that you can stay open to learning um, from the people around you before you align your vision with the forces that will help it succeed. People buying into your vision. That's a lot of what entrepreneurship is. You're not the lone leader. Otherwise, you never have a business that's successful. And I think you do that through active listening and seeing every conversation as an opportunity, whether it results in financial transaction or not. It's very often the benefit of these relationship networking and marketing that I'm doing is far, far more important than just closing the sale.
Good point. Yeah.
Love that.
So
I,
some,
I do this with my
go ahead.
clients because we build a lot of their sales pages and it's a lot of, I think the sales page is just a series of these functions. And I'm obsessed with one right now. But really what determines whether or not that sales page is successful is whether your audience, what you've been talking to, sees themselves in that language. What you said about the copywriting. Very often, like the best marketers, they're restating to consumer what consumers already shared as their deepest fears and greatest desires.
Yes.
So one of the things that is circling around here is what, I mean, one of the formal words of it is voice of the customer. So uh, many times young or inexperienced beginning entrepreneurs sacrifice this idea of voice of the customer. I think probably because they're afraid that they're two things. Number one, they're so gung ho and believe that their product, service, or message is so revolutionary that of course everybody's going to love it because I love it and mom loves it. And then they're afraid. I think there's a subconscious fear that when I start asking people their opinions, they're going to tell me they don't like it, or I might need to change it. And I don't want to hear that. So those two things work in concert to say, I'm not going to go talk to people. Instead, I'm just going to plow ahead. And it reminds me of a gentleman who was part of a startup weekend, which is something I've done through the years, where on a Friday night, a team gets together, heads directionally towards some product or service that they want to launch. And by Sunday afternoon, they're presenting this product or service in front of a handful of judges, and somebody's crowned the winner and receives eternal glory, nothing else. But there was a guy who was part of a team, and the team just wasn't the team itself was not gelling on a Friday night. And you really got to get a lot of stuff done from a Friday night to a Sunday afternoon in a short period of time. So by Saturday morning, you really need to have something solid, some sort of product or service that you're going to head towards. Well, Saturday morning, it just wasn't coming together. The team was sort of disbanding because they couldn't agree to a direction. And it was sort of Saturday midday. This guy's just hemming and hawing. He's like, you could sense that in him, he's got this idea he wants to present. And so I'm coaching this team and I said, what do you have? If you got something that you want to talk about, he said, I just don't even know if I want to bring it up. This thing is so good. And I was like, yeah. I said, well, I got to tell you, everybody's got an idea, but very few people implement. It's all in implementation. So get your idea out, do everybody a service. And I said, well, so what is it? He's like, well, I've been traveling for work. And he's a young guy, early 20s. I've been traveling for work. And you know how you have to like take smaller shampoo bottles through security.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, mm-hmm. He said, I'm thinking here that we could get like some small refillable bottles, and we could put shampoo and other stuff in those bottles, so you could take them through security. And I was like, what? I said, this is the fantastic world-changing opportunity. I said, how much traveling have you done? And I said, this already exists. He's like, really? It does? I said, yeah, absolutely. You can buy them for like 99 cents. They're all over Walmart, and they've been done for 40 years. He had no idea, but he had done zero research. All of his research was based on his
idea and his needs
patterns, which as evidenced by this, sometimes our patterns, the things that we believe in our heads, have nothing to do with anybody else. It's something that we're holding up here. We think it's amazing. We think it's terrible. We've prejudged this opportunity, this product, service, or message. And all it would have taken was talking to one person to find out, don't do this. This is not a presentable idea by Sunday afternoon, because unless you can, I don't know if you're going to gold plate these things, like what are you doing? and sure enough, just a little bit of research, a little bit of voice of the customer, he would have found out that this is not the world changing opportunity that he thinks it is. Or he's going to really have to dig in and figure out what niche to serve with these small refillable bottles. So I think sometimes young experience, and I don't say young in terms of age, but people who've not done the entrepreneurship thing yet and are really afraid of getting their voice out there because somebody's going to steal my idea. This is, I'm going to be judged for it, whatever it is. We prejudge and talk ourselves out of our best opportunities because we are unwilling to present it and get feedback on it.
Mm.
So I think it's a really common, as evidenced by, you, Paul, with your speech stuff, Ryan with his product or service. I deal with it as well. Kachina, Naomi, we've all got our things. This is part of the human experience. And when we become entrepreneurs, back to the idea that entrepreneurship is one of the greatest forms of self-development, probably short of being married. Like if you want to really refine yourself, go commit to somebody or something, stick with it, and you will be forced into becoming probably a better version of yourself.
Absolutely.
Or a really grumpy version of yourself, depending on if you let it make you bitter or whatever.
Perhaps
It can go
that's
two ways.
true.
It can go two ways.
I was thinking there that sort of ties back to what we were talking about last week. You remember we were with Ryan and we were saying, look, one way or another, you're going to be judged. And I think to tie in with what you said, Kachina, at the outset, that it's the greatest personal development program you can go through. Yeah, because one of the hardest things to do as a human being is to learn to not care whether people don't like you, like Naomi's current favorite book she's reading. Okay, you don't like it, so what? These people like it, right? That's the upside of it. You can get to that, but the other side is, of course, you still got to respect the fact that that ultimately, as you've said in the past, Jason, it's that thin cord of agreement thing, right? If you have customers who think your product or service is great and they buy it, you have a business. And if those customers suddenly disappear because it turns out you don't have one, or it turns out maybe you got a product, but you're a jerk or something like that, or you're arrogant, then all of a sudden, just like that, as Lizzo is currently finding out, you don't have a business at all, right?
Mhm.
So it's a tightrope you learn to walk down the middle of these two fluctuating things, where on the one hand you get the haters online and who likes to read what they have to say. I actually kind of find it entertaining. I got a negative review on one of my books one time. I was like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about at all. He hasn't even read it and he's just trashing it. That's just entertainment, right? On the other hand, you mentioned the young man there, and I was laughing. I wasn't laughing at the young man. I was laughing at the young man that is now an older man, hearing that story because of how many times I've said, I know what the people need. I know what they need to hear. I know what they really need, and I can give it to them. No, you don't. Especially if you haven't asked them. So
I love that. I love that. Last time I said, like, when I was talking to, we were talking to Ryan about not caring what people think, and I kind of leaned into because the book I was reading, don't give a crap what people think. But I kind of, when it comes to empathy, but as Jason pointed out later in the conversation, though, you need to care about what your actions do affect the other people, and that's kind of what we're talking about here. And I love, I've kind of come to realize you do need to care what people think, but you cannot let it affect your self-worth, and it shouldn't dictate the direction you take if you feel like you need to go a certain direction. Like, obviously take feedback, but you should not care about you should care about what people think. You should not care about people's judgment, because in regards to business, like Kachina, like how you're developing those relationships, making it relationship based. And if you don't get a close, it's not that wasn't a failure. You're still making that connection. I love that so much. You're caring what they think. You're not putting your opinion onto them. um, we need to care about what people think, but we cannot let it we cannot accept their judgment though, because they don't know. They might be looking at our decisions on their little tiny peephole of their own experiences. As long as they're doing that, they're not going to have any kind of clear judgment of us. So it's not wise to take other people's judgment, but it is wise to care about what people think.
You talked about this idea of relationship. And I think that's really important to this conversation because we are relational people. We are not transactional people. And when we try and make things transactions, people get hurt. And so I think there's not only this idea that we as an entrepreneur carry this weight of becoming, and it is a heavier weight perhaps, or at least a calling that other folks don't feel perhaps. And that's fine. Take on the responsibility and move yourself forward. But there's also I think the consideration of who we walk with. So, loving the journey and then loving who we're journeying with. And when we are taking care of those relationships, building those relationships, we are, I think, gifted at times the ability to change our direction, and it's okay. Like, how many times have somebody you cared about, they were doing one thing and all of a sudden they switched direction, they started doing another thing? And if you have a relationship with that person, you're happy, you're ready to engage with that person. Hey, what do you need? I'm here to support you. The people who you don't have a relationship with are like, I cannot believe you're doing that. And when we think we don't have relationships, we get into these situations. Lizzo, I mean, I'm sure it's very tragic in that whole series, but I'm like, so many people removed from that, doesn't matter to me. People have this relationship, her consumers, her customers, her listeners, her viewers have this relationship of who they believe her to be. Mm-hmm. And when they find out, oh, I don't have a relationship with that person, I made up most of that stuff. I don't know this person. All of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a second. I didn't know that's who you were. And so I think there's, as we're becoming this person that our organization needs us to be, we have to do it, I think, with some respect that we can't become detached from who we are. And yet, because then we're going to disappoint somebody at some point in time. And those people, and unfortunately, if we're dealing with small businesses, we're going to disappoint people who care about us. Mm-hmm. I think we need to respect that, right? If you want customers, you're going to have to build relationships. So we can't become detached. Our future self, the person we present, can't become detached from who we are as an individual. And yet, who we are as an individual is filled with some things that don't belong and some things that need to be developed. And we have to gather, I think, or not gather, but build, perhaps, build an infrastructure, a support network of relationships who can give us that voice of the customer, the people who are not afraid to say, listen, I don't, whatever it is that you think you're selling, I don't believe you. Doesn't mean I don't care about you, but it's just not believable. Like, hey, you got to bring out more.
Yeah.
Paul, I encountered that a little bit when we were talking about your speech stuff. You coached me through my book. You coached me through writing that book. And I had all sorts of fears about bringing it into the world and I'm going to be judged and all this other stuff. And then when you were like, hey, I want to do this speech and you were going through this speech stuff, I was like, it's not connecting. You're not connecting. Now, a great writer, but when it comes to delivering a speech, it's like, that's fallen flat on me. And here's why. Right. And for you in our relationship, I'm comfortable. I was apprehensive, but I was like, you know what? He knows that I care about him. He knows that I respect him. He knows I value his input. There are times when he helps me through things, and I need to reciprocate in this moment and say, here's what I think, and here's what I feel. And if it resonates, then run with it. And if it doesn't resonate, that's fine.
Yeah.
I only speak from my own paradigm. So I think it's not only directionally and becoming, but not disconnecting from who we are, and then building a support network of people who will walk with us relationally as we change, as we develop develop the things that need to be in us and remove the things that no longer belong.
I think it really comes down to authenticity. And with what Paul was saying earlier, It's like without becoming fake, taking that feedback without becoming fake. And when you're completely authentic with people, not just in criticism, but in affection, in caring for people, in showing appreciation for people, just in general, investing in them. When when you do have something to say that maybe might be a hard truth for them to swallow, they're so grounded in knowing your investment in them and your care for them because you've also been authentic with that, that there's that foundation to stand on. And so like when you have that like authenticity and that transparency with the people around you and building those relationships. And I also love what you were saying about like not becoming disconnected from your old self. You become your new self, not becoming disconnected from that. And mentioning how like that where there's good stuff within us, but there's also bad stuff within us. And the thought that came to mind was we need to Marie Kondo our behaviors and our perspectives and our relationships and make sure we build relationships that are authentic and grounded in investment and care for each other. And that way, and also relationships that help us grow because a lot of people like not totally Marie Kondo because it's like, oh, if that one doesn't bring me joy, we need to find joy in the discomfort of growth. That needs to be foundational for us. We need to be able to find that joy in the discomfort of growth. That was something else that I think it was the last book that I was reading. A lot of times when people have just the end goal in mind, it might turn out that they don't like the journey. You have to love the journey. If the process to get there is something you hate, the end is not going to happen for a long time. You have to love what you do. You have to love the process because that's where you're going to spend most of your time is in the process. And so it's like you have to love that and find joy in that discomfort of growth. You have to find joy in the growing pains because you know you're getting stronger. You know you're getting better. You know you're getting better with your business, with your relationships, just all around the connection. You're getting better with people being able to trust you and you being able to trust other people. And together you're able to climb the ladder to success, to more intertwined relationships that are bonding, that are strengthening, you're helping other people be buoyed up and you're buoying other people up.
I think, Jason, we need to circle back to one thing you pointed out earlier, where people discover that the person they thought they had formed a bond with is in fact a different person.
Mm.
And if that's, if that's the case, then I don't like, I hesitate because this is a spiritual thing, right? It's not a scientific thing, but I'd be interested to say, okay, so what are the acceptable boundaries? And we probably don't have time to go into that. What are the acceptable boundaries of allowing the audience that you're attempting to reach and build and grow and connect with to feel the more, shall we say, gravitationally heavy parts of your personality? And what I mean by that is, I'm an intense person. I really am. I'm mission, like, get to the objective, get it done. Everything matters. Like, people used to say, you don't know how to be fun and lighthearted and laugh. I do have a very good sense of humor. But I have so much of the soldier in me now that, it's hard for me to, it has been hard for me to ease off the throttle and just, let life come to me. And so, that makes me think it might be worth a discussion at some point. If that's inside you, and for most entrepreneurs, there's a seriousness that a non-entrepreneur can get away with not having, even if they feel it. But a lot of people who are not entrepreneurs don't even feel it. So there's this gravitas that we have because we're taking ownership of solving problems. And that says to me, okay, in that process, we're trying to build trust. And, it's hard to build trust if you're angry all the time or, stuff like that. You want to do it genuinely. In our context, you want to do it, according to a very clear set of spiritual principles that include benevolence and kindness and the absence of our inner darkness. But at the same time, right, as you've pointed out, if people can't sense my passion when I talk, then I might as well not talk. And if people can't sense that, yeah, okay, you want to engage with him on that issue, that particular area, be prepared because it's going to be intense, And I want people to know that. Like I do. I don't want people thinking, he's just purely laid back about everything and never gets upset. Never has strong feelings about anything. So I think that would be an interesting topic for the future. I just wanted to throw that in there. I realize we're starting to dwindle on time here, and poor old Kachina hasn't had an opportunity to to register her feedback here. But I think that would be cool to talk about sometime.
Well, we're reaching the end. Can you give me a little bit more context in these groups? Like I've met you, Paul, and Jathan. Naomi, I haven't had a chance to meet you, so I'd love to know a little bit more about the community and what the intention of these. It was a lot deeper than I expected, I'll be honest.
Like the community as like a whole, or
Like, yeah, like we went really deep, really fast. I like feel like I don't know you, Naomi, and what it is that you're doing, what you're trying to achieve, but I do know that this is a supportive community and container. So I just want to try and get like,
yeah. I came in going just barely starting out entrepreneurially I can talk. And I met with Jason, and I've been exploring my own growth. My end goal, since I started, is I want to help people. I've in the last 3 years, or more than that, actually, it started a lot longer than that, but I've been able to get healthy from the inside out, not following a darn program. It was through my own emotional, psychological, and spiritual well-being and growth. And as a side effect of the health I was able to obtain, I also lost almost half my body weight. And I think a lot of people have the goal to lose weight, but they don't understand that in order to be healthy, it has to start from the inside. And so for me, my goals entrepreneurially are to be I guess the word for it would be a coach, because I want to help people. I don't want it to be like some kind of program that's, cut and paste. My goal is specifically to help people learn health on a spiritual, psychological, emotional, mental level so they can feel steady in their surroundings no matter how crappy life gets. So that's where I'm coming from. So right now I've kind of been diving into coaching books, and not necessarily self-help books, but self-improvement books and things that are helping me be more introspective with myself, because I've kind of gone through a rough year, and I feel like I kind of plateaued. And if I'm going to be able to help people, I want to have that mission to serve people. I can't do that if I'm floundering and if I'm not, and if I'm being stagnant in my own growth. So that's where I'm at, and that's how I'm growing. And I haven't started per se the coaching journey, but I'm setting myself up to have as much growth for myself as possible so I can practice what I preach.
have it it sounds like you're very early in that journey. Have you decided a health coach?
I don't know how to explain it. It's more like a whole health coach, like a whole I guess Jason was saying like holistic.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of trying to explore that, and trying to explore I did some I had done digital marketing for a while, so I had been in meetings and stuff and started going that route, but I'm like it went against my ethics, I guess. Just like the whole sales pitchy, we've got something that nobody else has, and everybody is doing the whole digital marketing thing, and I'm like, it didn't sit right. So I had to, yeah, it's all new. It's all very, very fresh and new, and there's also some side things I've been working on as well, but that's been the biggest thing.
Awesome. That's very exciting. I think the whole world of coaching and consulting is going to explode right now because so many people are trying to take back control of their life and they're trying to, well, it's difficult to build your audience. It's, I think, somehow more fundamentally rewarding than hoping for a promotion at the end of the year, hoping your boss sees what you do. So,
Yeah.
So the workshop on Tuesdays, you're right. We get a little bit deep. We avoid at this point in time, I shouldn't say we avoid, but we don't focus on sort of the transactional nature of business where people are like, here's the 10 things you should do on social media, because we don't need to devote a whole lot of time and effort to that. There are basic things, you should do them. And if you need help doing them, the problem is not because you don't know what the 10 things are that you do. The problem is something different. And it gets back to and I'll just finish this real briefly, but it gets back to a large non-union painter. Largest non-union painter in my town came up to me after a little speech and he said, I think you can help my business. And I said, that might be true. What's your problem? And he said, I have a sales issue. Need more sales. I'm like, okay, well, let's chat. So I spent an hour with him and found out that he had a backlog of 2 to 3 months of sales that he was not going to be able to fulfill it. You know, he's got 2 or 3 months of work hanging out in the future. I said, well, yeah, I can tell you what, you don't have a sales problem. What's the real issue? Well, I'm not making any money. I said, that's not a sales problem. In fact, I'll probably do you a disservice if I get you more sales, because if you're not making money today, you're not going to make money 2 months from now. And he had been doing this for 20 years, despite being part of a group of painters in a little consulting thing nationwide, despite having job costing information, despite having a competent accountant and lawyer. No one told him, you don't have a sales problem.
Yep.
So I said, well, you do have a marketing issue because you don't look great. Like it looks a little dumpy. But what we're going to do is we're going to fix your sale. We're going to fix your internal profitability problem. Then we're going to move on to sales. Now, to do that, we took his job costing information and his P&L and 5 years of stuff from QuickBooks, right? And discovered that it worked out to be about 80-20. 80% of his jobs were super profitable. 20% were so profitable, they wiped out all the profit from those 80% and then some, to the point where he was like plus or minus 0% year to year. So we built him a job floor calculator. But one of the issues was, which is a mindset issue, he couldn't say no when people wanted to add on stuff. He couldn't charge more. It's like he just had this mental block. And over the course of a handful of months, coupled with some scientific analysis and hypothetical what if scenarios, I said, I'm going to walk with you monthly. Here's the spreadsheets we put together. Hypothetically, what would have happened over the past 5 years if you implemented these changes? I promise you this will work. You'll be fine. Then we're going to do a whole rebranding campaign and new marketing, that type of stuff, which is going to support some of your higher prices and the 30 years of experience that you have and brand equity. No marketing company was ever going to do that for him. His accountant wasn't going to do that for him. His lawyer wasn't going to do that for him. However, I will jump into any old pile of shit with you, and we're just going to go to town because I've been doing this for a long time. I've built 5 companies that done over $100 million. I've counseled thousands of entrepreneurs. I've spoken around the world and worked with people to develop their products or services and refine them. Now, this gets back to the community that I want to build. I want to build a community, and it seems like this is where we're headed. And I touch this lightly because I'm totally capable of making a list and going to town and creating it. I've done that. I'm doing things a little bit slower, a little bit more hands off, a little bit more community oriented, as evidenced by the faculty here and you, Kachina. I believe that if you have a product or service or message that is going to change the world, you have to be good at delivering that product or service or message. That involves a handful of things. It involves customer acquisition. It involves what your sales process is. It involves your operations. It involves your follow-up. It involves all those tactics, but it is much more a holistic problem than it ever is some little tactical issue somewhere when you are a small privately held organization. And so I think there's opportunity to help people learn, to help people engage, and to help people accelerate and really really grow their businesses. And one of the things I want to do with the workshop is take whatever is resonating in the atmosphere, whatever we sense is out there, bring it to the forefront, pick it apart, make it applicable, and then back it up with all the tactical stuff and the top 10 lists and things that you should do and whatnot. But there are, at one point in time, I did the math, there's something like 50,000 business books written every year. And there are many more times that of businesses that fail. So it can't be for lack of information that businesses fail. It must be something else. And as evidenced by the organizations that I've worked with and counseled, it is always something else. So that's why we go deep here. And that's why maybe we'll have classes or whatnot around certain tactical things. But those are the easy things to come by. You can teach those in schools, but the things you can't, those are people issues, and they come from within, and they require a longer journey perhaps. And so anyhow, that's why the workshop exists. The community exists to take my 30 years of experience, amplify it with all the people who I know and love and care about, and then develop some mentoring. Everybody work with one another. Have somebody to follow. Have somebody to walk with. Have somebody to lead. I think you can build. I think again, if I could encapsulate it, it is, if you have product, service, or message that's going to change the world, you got to be good at delivering that message. That requires a lot of things that you don't think about, and they're not telling you in business school. But that's what we unpack here at the workshop.
And I think the other thing too, like why we went so deep is why we do go so deep. We all have different and varied levels of experience. Like me, I have very minimal, but we all have a way of either needing to learn or a way of needing support or a way of cheering people on that's very unique to us. And so something that I really love about these meetings is with all the different dynamics that get mixed in, there's so many new ways to think about things and so much growth that happens, like just in the way we converse, just in the way we, throw ideas off each other. It's really good to have a soundboard that's full of completely different cultures, just different minds. And so I don't know, that's kind of why I love what we do here.
All right. Well, I don't want to cut everybody off, but we are definitely at our 1 hour time that we
Right.
guarantee everybody's in and out by. So this does bring the official close to the workshop this Tuesday, August 8th. If you have questions, comments, or need to follow up with anybody, see them in the community at thinkergrowth.com. Thanks for joining us, everybody. If you want to connect afterwards, feel free to do so. I'll stick around here for maybe 5-10 more minutes if anybody has anything else they want to chat about.
Awesome. Well, I have to jump as well. So this was fantastic. Great way to meet you guys.
Thank you for joining us, Kachina. Appreciate your input
See you,
today.
Kachina.
It was really good to meet you.
It's a pleasure. I hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, same.
All right. Bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
My lava lamp died.
I was gonna ask. I was like, what happened to Lobby? That's the name I just barely gave him. But did it die?
You made that
Or like,
up.
did it?
No,
I
it just
100%.
he needs a bulb, which has been ordered.
Okay.
I
was
guess
like,
this is probably, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
You're good. I was just wondering if Jeff, got to it, knocked it down.
No,
It was Humpty Dumpty
Fortunately.
situation.
Ugh. I know, that'd be terrible. I did lose 5 pounds of flour on the floor yesterday, though, which I was really not happy.
Oof.
Jason, could these be turned into podcast episodes? What we're
100%.
discussing feels like it should be a podcast that just comes out every week.
Yeah.
And I bet you could add a big subscription
Really
base in no
liking
time.
So here's something we're going to toy around with. I made this, I've been thinking about this and then Ryan's the guinea pig. So I've been doing a sprint with Ryan as a guinea pig. And he knows he's a guinea pig, but we're doing a live workshop with him on Thursday. It's going to be broadcast on LinkedIn the title of which is, drum roll, Entrepreneur Workshop, idea to market - Guardian Skincare. So we're doing the Entrepreneur Workshop. It'll be live. With him talking about, it'll follow kind of the 1 million cups atmosphere. It's like him talking about his product and the thing he wants to bring. He's going to talk about the entrepreneurial journey, the process of how it came about, any inspirations, challenges, roadblocks, how he's been juggling business with real life, getting out of his head and his mindset. And then there's always going to be an ask. Here's what I need from the community. I need beta testers. I need surveyors. And here's what's next for me. And that's going to happen. I'm going to do that regularly. I'm going to have John and Kirk probably on the workshop, and it'll just be a facilitated discussion. So this idea that, hey, as joining the workshop, not only do you learn, but you could get exposure for your business. It's going to be double dipping here. Guardian Skincare will get exposure and push out some information. And then also it'll be the workshop. So if you want to join this, if you want to be part of these discussions, if you want to get your message out there, join the workshop on Tuesdays, or join the community at thinkergrowth.com. So I'm going to toy around with that, walk slowly. And yes, all of these things doesn't have to just be video, could just as easily be a podcast. So adding on those things incrementally.
Yeah.
We have enough now that we could launch a podcast, and now we've got a good pace where we're doing this every week. And then if there's a live every week as well, or every other week, or as needed, I think that starts to turn on itself. So
we must have like 6 or 7 episodes by now, I would think.
We do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We've got we actually have we skipped 1 week because I was gone and didn't facilitate getting anybody else to take the call. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
What?
If you count the original community kickoff back in May 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
And
we
it-
have over
and
2 months of episodes. Just plug them and play them, release them each week, and people would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whenever I launch a podcast, I like to have like a handful of episodes just in case they like that one, they can just move on and binge the next one.
Yeah.
Because some people in retail jobs and whatnot, they're just sitting there listening to podcasts in their ear.
Or books, yeah.
Yeah, or books or true crime or whatever. So yeah, I think it could definitely go that direction.
Yeah, let's go.
Thinker
Okay.
Growth Podcast.
Fine.
It's too
Yeah.
easy. That's a really catchy name.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Easy to attract entrepreneurs and the target audience to it. And
Yeah. So what do you think about, I'm toying around, if you got a couple minutes here, I'm toying around with this, the business accelerator that empowers faith-based founders to change the world. I don't know how hard I want to hit on the faith-based, but the business accelerator, it could be the business accelerator that empowers founders to change the world. Leave off the faith-based.
the
Jesus freaks.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
It's worth a shot.
Toby Mac took that up in the late 90s.
I don't know who that is.
Oh my gosh. Naomi.
Sorry. Hey, I was born in the mid 90s,
That's-
so let's start there.
That's
Yeah.
because you
I'm a
grew
child.
up in the it's because you grew up in the Mormon church.
Oh yeah.
Toby Mac.
Let's call it the church. Let's call
He
it the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That'll attract
Toby Mac. was a
one
rapper.
group of people and everybody else.
You'll love him though. Toby Mac. I would think you'd like his music. It's because he had
Is it good?
one of his albums was called Jesus Freaks. And it was it was before he was Toby Mac. He was part of a group that was
DC
definitely
Talk.
rap. DC Talk, yes.
Yeah.
And wow, that was polarizing. The people of my church were like, "You'll never play that. It's terrible." And then, those are the older folks. And then the youth group was like, we love it. It's rap.
Yeah.
It's Christian rap. And my mom was like,
That's
okay.
called crap. Just kidding.
That,
Just kidding.
that offended.
Yeah, well,
That offended a lot of the traditional. We'll just sing hymns and wear suits and long dresses and all that.
yep. It was very offensive at the time.
I'll have to look them up.
DC talk.
Yeah, I don't know how much you want to hit into that, but I love that though, like just the and growth. So are you thinking tagline or rebranding the name? Or a little bit of both?
Well, I think the workshop,
Uh-huh.
I think the workshop is going to be the lead. So it's the workshop
Right.
in the Thinker Growth community. So you can join the Thinker Growth community. The workshop is all about entrepreneurs. You can learn, you can grow, or you learn through the workshop, you engage through a sprint. And then for those, right product, person, time, whatever, you accelerate, or you scale through the accelerator. And then the accelerator is connected to funding as well. So there's a whole process that you join the accelerator. It's formulaic. There's funding that's available. There's mentorship that's available. Like you go off, like you're ready to scale. So you grow through a sprint to get to your first customers. And then when you're ready to scale it, boom, you get in the accelerator. So it's like, if you want to stand in the wings, workshop, just listen to the workshop. You can engage with the podcast, the video cast, the LinkedIn lives. And then when you're ready to actually work on your stuff, you join a sprint. It's a 12-week program where you just go to get to your first customer. Then when you've got something that's moving, then there's an accelerator program where we scale you up.
It's like a rocket. Propulsion.
Jason, now that it's 9 a.m. instead of 3 p.m, and you're telling me the tagline there for the community, it sounds totally good to me. Say it one more time.
The business accelerator that empowers faith-based founders to change the world.
Love that. I love that.
The business accelerator that empowers founders to change the world.
I like faith-based. It gives people because that's kind of foundational. Remember when the document that we had, we put God first, put God and family first, and I think that's fundamental for this community. And I think putting that in the tagline, it gives people an idea of what they can find here, the support they can find here.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't think it should be backed off a little bit?
Nope.
No?
I mean, obviously, don't make it too crazy, but no, how it's worded is excellent, I think.
Okay.
Because remember the conversations we had, Jason, you're going to run into people who are going to clash with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then
we'd rather weed them out before they get here.
Yeah. Not that you are incapable of telling them to go F themselves. I understand that. But, I personally don't want to help the people who are going to end up in the counseling offices with some of my clients because they've prioritized money and success over their families. And I know faith-based people can do that too, but it's very
faith-based people
unlikely
can be called back to the foundation.
It's very unlikely for them to do it in an environment where people like us are telling them, hey, you're pushing it too far. You're making it all about the money, and that's not the point.
We want to shape the community and want to put with the shape we're wanting for the community in the tagline. I think that's very telling. I think it's perfect.
All right. Well, that's good. That's excellent feedback. Thank you for that. So it'll lead with the workshop. That'll be the focus is on the workshop because that's where the volume of people will be. Then the filtering mechanism is you can join a 12-week sprint to, really work diligently towards your goals. And then you can get the accelerator, which it's just sitting here right now. And I have enough connections probably to make it happen, but I need some assurances. I need some, I need some I need some sort of next step for that besides just making phone calls. Just to
What do
know
you
that
feel like
that's
the next
really
step
what
would
should be
be?
done. I don't know. Well, that's not true. I do. I know all sorts of things, and I'm very timid to push. I have done such a good job of pushing. I have a list a mile long of things that I've done, and I just want to. I just want to. I want to do it. I want to know like this is the best, which you know
You're not going to
just makes
figure out
me.
it's the best until after you've made a
I-
decision,
well, that's
started on
true.
it, and
Yep,
then reflect back on it.
that's
Mull
true
it
too.
over. Make a
That's
decision,
true
go
too.
for it, mull it over.
Well,
And
this is
Commit.
good feedback for the business accelerator stuff. So, and I think the workshop works. I think that
Hmm.
so the entrepreneur workshop, that'll be the LinkedIn live stuff. Entrepreneur workshop in the Thinker Growth from Thinker Growth community. Go to thinkergrowth.com to join the discussion. And then we'll do the workshop stuff in the community these Tuesdays, just in the community where we really beat these things up. You have to be a member to join. And then, yeah, I'll do the podcast. I'll launch the podcast. We have enough content now to do that, which is great.
We can really
Um,
hammer the faith thing in. If you're not a member yet, make an appointment and we'll baptize you.
Yeah. See, that's the thing I
kneel
don't
down
want
and
to do.
we'll
I don't
give you
want
the
to do the
pledge.
church. I don't want to do the church of entrepreneurship. I had a friend once, God bless his wonderful soul. He was a very good friend at the time. And he was the definition of so heavenly minded, you're no earthly good.
Yeah.
There are so
Yeah.
many people, like think of this, the number of people with struggling relationships who will not pick up a relationship book, who will not go to counseling and all this other stuff, and they want to pray
And
about
they'll
it. It's like,
pray.
Yeah.
They'll
that's
pray.
not
They'll pray and
enough.
pray and
Sorry.
pray. Faith that works is dead.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
not going
so
to go anywhere.
My buddy Michael at the time, his whole thing was, I'm not going to set an alarm clock. God will wake me up when I need to wake up. And I was like, no, that's not true.
No.
Like,
God gave you an alarm clock. God gave you modern technology. He will if you use what he gave. It's like looking at the brass serpent. He makes it so easy for us. He literally
Yeah.
modern medicine. Some people don't believe in modern medicine. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's the greatest miracle God gave us. God gave it to us. Are you kidding me? You really don't want to look at the brass serpent? Really? Really?
Dave Ramsey, this is a story I heard from Aaron Walker, my ISI guy, mastermind leader. He said Dave Ramsey once heard about somebody like that. I'm waiting on the Lord. I'm waiting on the Lord. And Dave Ramsey said, well, he better be delivering pizzas while he's waiting.
right. That's true. I mean, there's scripture behind that. If you're not going to work, you're not going to eat.
Yeah.
And yet that's coupled with God knows what you need and he's going to provide for you.
There's grace. That's where grace
What?
comes in. Grace isn't like you sit on your butt and God's going to like take care of you if you pray hard enough. No, grace is you do everything you can and God will carry you through the rest.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He'll fill up the rest.
Yes. Man makes his plans and God directs his steps. Just like
Mhm.
this. Like I've got this plan. I can see the vision. And I just want to make sure, and this is where I'm slowing down in my life. I just want to make sure that God's directing my steps and I'm
If
not.
God's not giving you a slam door, go for it. He'll give you a slam door if it's not right. Just start.
That's what I
going.
trust.
Just start.
That's what I
momentum.
trust. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Well, podcast forthcoming.
Yeah.
The entrepreneur workshop, you'll be invited to it, but that's going to be on Thursday. Yes. 1:00 Central. Ryan in the hot seat. And then, yeah, we'll see where it goes from there.
I can't make that one. I'll be sad to
Right.
miss it, but I'm going to chat to that young I told you about, Nolan, with the golf product, and see if he would be interested in, being a guinea pig or something like that, and we can.
Yeah. Sounds good to have him
process
join
it
the
through.
community. Yeah. And I'll circle back with Kachina and see, unless you want to circle back with Kachina, Paul. I don't know. Who do you want to?
I think she'd be open to hearing from you.
Yeah. I'll circle back with Kachina and see what her thoughts are and how she sees her involvement. For your edification, Naomi, she's building she wants to help coaches build out their classes. So she's doing a whole coaching, but she's got her vision overlaps with what this community is, which is great. And, but she's focused on coaches to build out courses to build out sales funnels and actually build a commission sales team to go sell the courses, which also dovetails with what Emissary does to write books and get and do PR and get speaking engagements for these folks to sell books, to sell courses, to have a sales funnel, so it's really just interesting how it all joins together. Also, my opinion, one of my things that I like to do, want to do with the community, specifically around coaching, is so many coaches want to help the person. They're like, or so many people like Kachina, they want to help you build your coaching and get your course and all that type of stuff. But running a business and growing a business, that's different. Your desire to help people is part of it. That's your special sauce. But without the rest of the infrastructure to deliver that special sauce, and then manage it and grow it and that type of stuff, there's a limit to how far that's going to go, which is fine. But when you're ready to build your business, then you go to the growth community. So anyhow,
Love that.
Jason,
Sorry, I also want to get clear on I'm community manager, but what does that entail, and what would that look like to you? Should I be setting up meetings, like a meet and greet with the new people, like one-on-one, like, hey, do you have any questions? Like, should I do that? Should I just
that would
reach
be
out
awesome.
to them, texting them? So face-to-face, like just like a virtual face-to-face, kind of like this, and just want to like ask some questions, like, what are you here for? What are you hoping to get here? And then
How can we help
reporting
you?
back to you guys and seeing like, what are their goals and how can we help them achieve their goals? That kind of thing.
That would be fantastic. If you want to take that on, whenever somebody joins, introduce yourself, ask them what they need, set up a virtual, meet
Just
and
like a
greet. How can the
one-on-one,
community serve you?
yeah.
Do you have a business already? Are you working on that? Just get some feedback to figure out
What brought you
based
here?
on today, voice
Yeah.
the
What brought
customer
you
stuff.
here? What are you
How can we
hoping to
serve you?
get here? And how can we
Yeah.
help you get that?
Any introductions I can make, all that stuff for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah.
and Jason,
I realized I kind of dropped the ball with a few people there. I'm like, we should probably get clear on what I want
That's
to
a
be
good
doing.
idea. Let's do that.
What
Yeah.
I want to be doing.
Jason, don't forget to check
sir.
your email. Speaking of PR, there's somebody who wants to interview you that I found on Harrow.
I saw that earlier today. Yes.
So there you go.
Good deal. If there's anything I can do for any of you all folks, let me know.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Otherwise, you and I have a thing tonight, Naomi, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
It's not going to be live. It's just going to be like a recording.
Okay. That sounds
Yeah,
good.
Jason,
And I have
I'll see you in about an hour or so.
Yeah. And then I've got do I have the link for your stuff, Naomi?
I think so. I think it was in the calendar invite. I don't know if that's the right link. And if not, then you can tell me which link to send.
That's
when
not
you
the
get
right
there.
link.
So,
Because you're doing Restream?
Yeah.
Yeah. Find the different link. That's
so how do I find the right link?
If you go open your studio and then click join or invite, there's a link in there. It's a pretty
So would
long.
it be under like start recording, or would it just so here's the Stream Studio.
Yep, Stream Studio and then invite in the upper left hand corner. And you said, Paul, I know we've got a thing coming up here.
Yeah, about 12:30 your time.
12:30. Yeah. Cool.
Okay, I see what you mean. Invite guests.
Yep. So use that
Copy.
link, which is that is the unique link for that particular studio. So when you go to that next, you'll use that link to log in as well, because I'll be using that link. You'll be using that link. Yeah.
Okay, still throw that on the calendar. I'm just gonna click on the event real quick and
Awesome
throw it in
sauce.
there. Sweet.
All right.
All right.
And if you need me to be thinking about anything in advance of that,
Oh yeah,
um,
it's just like about projection. Just basically projection, how it leads to success and how it holds you back, and scapegoating and projection of like roles. So I want not just like projection of like what you assume. So assuming things about people, and then also like roles, like when you're put into a certain role in like your family of origin, and how you project that role onto the people around you, and they put you into that place. It's not necessarily you're the victim of, just those kinds of things. How scapegoating, roles and projection and success versus failure, all those things are intertwined, kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's kind
Excellent.
of, iffy, but yeah.
Looking forward
It'll
to
get
it.
more clarity as we go. I have it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Right.
See you soon.
Thanks. See you
Thank-
guys.